to Mayor Rick Kriseman's State of the City Address. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remain standing as a joint honor guard from the St. Petersburg Fire Rescue Department and the St. Petersburg Police Department presents our nation's colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets reclaim the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Whoa, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please welcome to the stage Deputy Mayor Dr. Kanika Tomlin.
Good morning. We are so pleased to welcome you here this morning. Much has transpired in the time that has passed since we last came together in this special space, the Palladium Theater, for this important gathering, the State of the City of St. Petersburg. This is Mayor Rick Kriseman's fourth State of the City, and it's the fourth time that we've beckoned the community, all of our community, not only those who can afford to buy a ticket or those who hold a title or sit on a special board, but everyone, to gather to gain understanding of the course of our city's future. In my work as city administrator and deputy mayor, I am privileged every day to lead an expert team of servant leaders and policy directors. Many of them, including the mayor's cabinet and those policy directors, are here with us this morning. Members of Mayor Kriseman's cabinet and office, please stand and be recognized. And all members of our city team, thank you for your excellence. You'll hear a little more about a few members of our great team from Mayor Kriseman in just a few minutes, but first, we're fortunate this morning to hear from two inspiring members of our community who will lift this room and our spirits with their shining bright light. Cole Faust and Kyla Emmons work here in St. Pete at Metro Inclusive Health. It's a not-for-profit organization dedicated to providing inclusive, relevant, and supportive quality health and wellness services. Cole works as the LGBTQ+ program manager, and Kyla works as the trans services navigator. Both Cole and Kyla are passionate about artfully sharing their experiences as LGBTQ+ individuals. They are the face of inclusion and advocacy. They are St. Pete. Please help me welcome Cole Faust and Kyla Emmons.
Thank you to Mayor Kriseman and Deputy Mayor Tomlin and everyone in attendance today for making our unity possible. When Kyla and I went to write this poem, it was really easy for us because St. Petersburg is such an inclusive and welcoming city. I hope that each of you will find yourselves and your loved ones reflected in these words. Without further ado, welcome to the city of St. Petersburg.
Symphonies pour from spirits enlightened in synagogues and temples, mosques and churches, nature and libraries.
Musicians line busy beach drive sidewalks, creating soundtracks behind children's laughter through the banyan trees.
Love of all varieties celebrated on Central Avenue by the rainbow flag flying high. At the LGBTQ Welcome Center, local youth find safe spaces and our elders find fellowship over card games and coffee talk.
Artists capture beauty from the many cultures of this community, from John Gascott's Latin pop art to Mariam Rana's commentary on being Pakistani American. University students marvel at the work of Dali and Chihuly as sea lovers sail in the bay.
Beautiful black boys play football on South Side, while proud mothers prepare home-cooked meals that make the entire block want to come inside for dinner.
Inclusivity is the power we each source to the sun to generate light that will always shine on all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyla. Thank you, Cole. That was really beautiful. Kyla and Cole say, welcome to the city of St. Petersburg. And I'll add, welcome to the Year of the Woman. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, that was last year. And what does that have to do with today? Well, this is St. Pete. And here in the Burg, it's the Year of the Woman every year. And that has everything to do with every day. And it's also the Year of the Man and the Year of the Child. It is the year of our elders and the year of everyone fortunate enough to call this beautiful Burg home. Here in St. Pete, we are honoring everybody, recognizing everyone, every single day. Celebrating diversity, the value that it brings, and the dignity inherent to all who share in this human experience. And we are a stronger, better, absolutely more beautiful city as a result. My scarf, it's designed by artist Alexandra Posen, and it features the faces of the 200 women who ran for Congress last year. This is a record, and this is America. And even though we face challenges every day as a nation, as a city, and as a community, we are wrapped, quite literally, in the hope of possibility. And if this is America, this is St. Pete. You, a sea of citizens who show up, stand up, and speak up for our city's soul and the bright future that waits to unfold. We are blessed here in our city to be guided by great leaders who serve you with compassion and courage. This is true of every one of the elected officials who represent you. It is especially exemplified by the noble public servant I am honored to now introduce. The Honorable Charlie Gertis serves as the chair of St. Pete's City Council. He is in the final year of his second term, which means he served in at least 250 regular city council meetings to date. Now, these are meetings that regularly coast late into the evening. These are meetings that are packed with weighty issues and passionate pleas from constituents, neighbors, and friends. His service, commitment, integrity, and intelligence never waver, no matter the hour, no matter the topic, no matter the politic or popular position. You can count on his voice to light the path to reason, always. We count on his compassion to light the path to purpose. We count on his civility to light the path to respect, and our city is so fortunate to count on his truth to always make way for our city's own. Sometimes I think I'd like to write of his wisdom in a book, because it would make a great read. This noble, all-heart attorney who raises his voice only ever to raise our consciousness and the odds of the underdog. This rugged angel of a man who is ever guided by righteousness. His love for the law, it keeps us all on track. He would be so beautifully captured as a character in a book, but I guess Harper Lee has already so eloquently done so I'll leave that to her. But the next time you read of mockingbirds, please think of St. Pete's own Atticus Finch and help me welcome him now to the stage. City Council Chair, Charlie Gertis.
Good morning. Good morning. I tell people that being term limited is liberating. When I talk with constituents and they say, you know, I voted for you and I want to vote for you again, but you need to do this, this, and this. And I say, well, I'm sorry, you can't vote for me ever again. So, but being free means I can take some privileges, and I'm going to do that this morning, if you'll indulge me, please. I wanted to introduce you to my 3 favorite constituents, my grandchildren. This is Henry, Callie, and Cade. Henry's 2.5. Callie will turn 17 months on March 2nd. And Cade will arrive on or before March 15th. And I think Callie, Henry, and Cade are all here this morning. I spend as much time with these constituents as I can. And what I see is joy, smiles, happiness. Those of you who have children and grandchildren understand the unconditional love that children bring to your life, and that's my medicine. But I can't help but believe the reason, or a big reason, for their happiness and joy is the city that they're being brought up in. And you know, people say the city this and the city that. The deputy mayor just shared with you, and this is my firm belief. We live in a beautiful, beautiful piece of geography. It's a great place. But the city is you. You are the city, your neighbors, your family members, your enemies, the people you don't get along with. The city is you. And I am so grateful to all of you for making the place that my grandchildren can be joyous and happy and live their dreams. So in my gratitude, I wanted to give you a gift this morning. You may not think it's a gift because you'll probably get bored with me. But this gift is to share with you over 7 years and 2 months of serving on city council, some insights into the colleagues that I serve with. I want to honor them because it's been a privilege to serve with them. I'm going to go down the dais. Brandy Gabbard. You know, if statistics hold true, half of you or more in this room voted for Brandy Gabbard. And so a lot of you probably know a lot about her bio, and you checked into her before you voted for Brandy Gabbard or Barkley Harless. And by the way, Barkley Harless was a very strong candidate. Barkley Harless is a very engaged citizen in St. Petersburg, and I hope he stays engaged because Barkley's part of the future of St. Pete. But Brandy got your vote, and I'm grateful for that. Brandy's a wife, a mother, a professional, and a public servant. And I know we talk about double standards, and why is that such a big deal? But come on, dads, come on, fathers. We know that moms are the ones that do the magic table and the magic basket and take care of the house. And to be all four of those is really, truly impressive to me. Perhaps you also know, but maybe you don't, that Brandy Gabbard is a nationally recognized policy leader on the National Flood Insurance Program, the FEMA rating system, and resiliency solutions that are so important to a place that's a peninsula on a peninsula. And I'm so, so grateful for that policy leadership, and we should all be grateful to Brandy for taking a lead role, not only in our community, but in our country. But I'm going to share with you my secret about Brandy. Brandy comes to City Hall every time I see her with a smile and a positive attitude and happiness. And that resonates with me because that's how I try to come to City Hall every day. And so Brandy, thank you for your uplifting, thank you for your smile, thank you for your energy. I'm so grateful for it. Ed Montanari. I didn't know till I started working on this speech that his first name is John. Did you know that? I found that out on Google, where if you Google Ed Montanari, you get 10,500,000 results, and if you Google John Montanari, you get 4,160,000 results. A difference of 6 million. That's something else. I'm a baseball guy, so I'm superstitious. There's things you don't talk about in the ninth inning of certain games and things like that, and I don't want to jinx Ed. But Ed has never had to CAMPAIGN. Nobody wants to run against Ed Montanari, and I understand that. Ed's an Air Force veteran. He flew F-16s in the Air Force. People say to Ed, thank you for your service. I say thank you, Ed, for being insane. When you sit on a motorcycle seat on top of a supersonic jet engine, and oh, by the way, you're holding some rockets and missiles at the same time, I think you're wonderfully insane, Ed. Thank you for your service. Ed comes to City Hall every day like the captain of his plane that's carrying 260,000 souls. He checks the lists, he kicks the tires, he moves the flaps. Ed checks everything. If you've ever watched a city council meeting and you see Ed's notebook, 3M will be in business forever because sticky notes are everywhere. But here's the secret, Ed. Maybe it's not a secret to you. All 7 of us love Kathy, and we're happy that you go home to her and get mentored and tutored. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Ed Montanari, for your service. Darden Rice. Darden's been an activist and an engaged citizen of our community for a long, long time. And I think she would proudly wear the title of policy wonk. Darden is the epitome of a person who dives into policy on both sides of an issue and finds solutions and works hard. the environment, transportation, water, you name it. Darden is willing to dive in and be a good steward. And if the dictionary was populated with pictures instead of words, Darden's picture would be the definition of stewardship. Here's my secret. 2 years ago, Darden was elected by us to be the chair. At about the same time, she was told that a life-challenging disease had entered her life. I'm not going to honor the disease by saying its name, because the disease is losing. Darden never, ever brings this up. Her strength of being is incredible. Darden, I respect you so much. I promised myself I wasn't going to do this. Steve Cornell. Steve has been on city council for 10 years. He's the most senior member on city council. And city, you did a great job of putting Steve Cornell in office. He's a dogged advocate for his district. Some would criticize him as being parochial and paying too much attention to his district. You know, we're elected by the entire city, not just our districts. Steve was on the Albert Whitted closure when it happened. Steve was on the Southwest Water Reclamation Project when it happened. The Department of Transportation mounds at Maximo Park, the Skyway Marina District, Eckerd College, of which he's an alumnus. Steve is all over all of those things for the people that live in the southernmost part of St. Petersburg. Here's my secret. Steve should be, if there's such a thing as Equality USA, those of you that are familiar with Equality Florida, if there's such a thing, and I tried to find it, I'm not sure there is one, but if there's an Equality USA, Steve Cornell should be the leader, the executive director. There's just not a stronger, smarter advocate and supporter of human dignity and equality in our country. And Steve doesn't fight discrimination with anger, vitriol, or heated rhetoric. He fights discrimination by celebrating stories of courage and resilience. He fights discrimination with positive examples of why discrimination is horrible. He shines a light on the stories of overcoming the violence and hatred of bigotry. Any bigotry. Name your bigotry, Steve will stand up against it. And he'll stand up against it positively so that you listen and your ears don't turn off. We can all learn from Steve Cornell. Gina Driscoll. Gina won her election against another strong candidate, Justin Bean. When you think about the candidates that are stepping up for public office in St. Petersburg, it's really encouraging for the future of our city, I believe. And again, Gina won that election, and I'm so glad she did, and I hope Justin stays engaged in our city because he's a positive influence, and I hope to see him continue to seek public office. I call Gina the shoe leather council member. She's ubiquitous. She's everywhere. Downtown, it's not unusual to think you saw Gina at the same place, two different places at the same time. It's unbelievable to me how ever-present Gina Driscoll is in our city. Here's my secret. Oh, and when you see Gina, she's probably got her dachshunds with her. I think there's been some recent publicity about the city being a dog-friendly city, and Gina takes full advantage of that. Here's my secret about Gina. Gina is a case-by-case thinker. She does her homework diligently. She makes decisions not just based on the papers we get, and by the way, we can get anywhere from 600 to 1,000 pages every week of backup documentation for all the agenda items. Gina reads all of that. She competes with Ed for the 3M Sticky of the Year award. But what Gina does is she reads that stuff and then she leaves it and she goes and checks things out on her own. She goes personally and looks into things. She does personal homework as well as staff homework. I would call Gina the Justice Kennedy of the City Council. I'm a lawyer. I follow the Supreme Court. Some of you may not. Justice Kennedy, who's now off the Supreme Court, was the highly recognized swing vote that didn't go by party lines, didn't go by politics. He made case-by-case decisions, and that's what Gina Driscoll does, and we should all be proud of her and happy that she's in office. Lisa Wheeler Bowman, the notorious LWB. I have never met a more fierce defender of family than LWB. The story of her relentless and passionate pursuit to bring her son's murderer to justice is well known, but Lisa is the daily rock for her family, and her family doesn't stop at blood. Her family is anybody in her community, our community, that is in need, hurting, needs a hug, or just an I love you. Lisa and I are determined and committed to bring the L word into City Hall. The L word is L-O-V-E, love. Every time we see each other, the first thing we say is, I love you. Lisa is, here's my secret about Lisa. Lisa's the sponge. I call her the sponge. She's the consummate listener, and she takes in everything. Lisa lives the phrase, listen twice as much as you speak. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. But I tell you, when LWB speaks, you better be listening, because it is very, very important, or else it would not come out of her mouth. Amy Foster. Amy is the guru of all things nonprofit. Operations, efficiency, effectiveness, success. And she's concentrated her private life on raising up young people, children in fact, and especially, but not only, girls, to believe that each and every one of them can be who they dream to be. The amount of young lives that Amy has touched and uplifted is incalculable, and our future is much better for Amy Foster's work. Amy is the bomb.com for searching Google and other search engines. When we talk about things, before I'm through with my sentence, she's looked it up and she has an answer. She's incredible with data mining and finding things. But here's the thing about Amy Foster. Here's my secret about Amy Foster. Amy's real self threatens who I believe I am. A big part of me is my Catholicism. Probably the most valued comment I ever got was when Carl Nurse left council and said, Charlie, you make me proud to be a Catholic. Amy challenges my Catholicism because Amy makes me consider that reincarnation is actually real. Amy has the wisdom and the insight of a person that has lived 10 lifetimes. It's a wisdom far too deep and lived to be carried out in a 30-something-year-old vessel. There's no way she's gained all that wisdom in her young life. And Pope Francis and Bishop Parks, my shepherds, forgive me, there's simply no other explanation for Amy's wisdom than reincarnation. It is selfish of me, I know, but Amy, I'm going to continue to soak up as much of that as I can get. Those are my city council colleagues, the leaders you have elected to represent your values, your interests and dreams, as you are the city of St. Petersburg, and I'm humbled and proud and privileged to serve with every single one of them. That brings me to the final elected official that I am so grateful to all of you, the entire city, for selecting to lead us all on our journey to a best destiny as a city. Mayor Richard Kriseman. I call myself a friend of Rick Kriseman. We share so many values: creator, family, service, the law, and the intention of making dreams become reality. At his core, that is who Mayor Rick Kriseman is. In his office as your representative, he has surrounded himself with passionate, selfless, and tireless members of our community to carry out your purposes, not his, your purposes. And I'm not just talking about the people at 145 5th Street North in City Hall or the MSC building on 4th Street. I'm not just talking about those people that he surrounded himself. I'm talking about every single person that wears a pelican on their shirt or their hat or their badge, because all of those people are tireless, passionate, and are working for your dreams and their dreams. The fact that he surrounded himself with these people is humility. It is the definition of humility. It is not grandiose. It is a recognition that talents, intellect, and action come from many quarters, not just his office. That is truly selfless. This mayor recognizes that the intersection of this time, this place, and our presence now is momentous and singularly exceptional in meaning for the future of our home and for our dreams. He has chosen to embrace this time and this opportunity boldly, and we should all be grateful for that decision. Polishing and sprucing up the status quo is easy, it's comfortable, and it's pleasing. But it is not consequential, and it is not lasting. Identifying and confronting the shade that poverty, access to housing, access to transportation, discrimination, and the forsaken potential of youth throw out on our Sunshine City is present, and the future is bold and transformational and expressive of a belief of optimism. That is what this mayor is doing, and that is who this mayor is. I talk candidly with the mayor, and he talks candidly with me. We trust one another. We don't always agree on the how, but his purpose is solid and true. And this is the last thing I want to share with you. I asked him recently, you're 2 years away from term limits. We were talking about term limits because I'm term limited. What comes next? Without hesitation, he looked me straight in the eye and he said, Charlie, I'm so deep and fully engaged into being the mayor of our city. That is all I think about. It's all I dream about. I eat it, I sleep it, I drink it. How to do this the very best that I can every day and each day at a time. Best answer ever. We all should be very grateful for that. I am. I'm very grateful for that. And I'm privileged to welcome and to introduce to you the mayor of the city of St. Petersburg, Rick Kriseman.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. You know, they say that when you're going up on stage, you should never follow children or animals, but I'm going to add a couple. You should never follow Deputy Mayor Kanika Tomlin. You should never follow Council Chair Charlie Gertis and those incredible performers that we have. Would you give them another hand, please? It is good to be back here at the historic Palladium at St. Pete College. This building is about 93 years old, and it is still serving this community so well. All you have to do is pull up front, look at the banners of who's going to be in here performing or lecturing, and you know how fortunate we are as a community to have this magnificent facility, and how fortunate I feel to be able to be on this stage in this beautiful building. I again want to thank our chairman of City Council, Charlie Gertis, for that introduction. This will be Charlie's 8th and final year on the St. Petersburg City Council, making him the longest serving councilman from District 1 since the Reverend J.W. Cate left office in 1991. And now I served in District 1 too, and Charlie has outlasted me and everybody else. I guess it's not easy representing the Wild Wild West out in District 1. But Charlie has served and he has led with distinction, and I look forward to seeing him in action over the course of the next year. And I will say one last thing about Charlie Gertis. He is one of the most decent men that I have ever met in my lifetime, and I feel so fortunate to be able to call Charlie my friend. Thank you, Charlie. And my thanks to each of his colleagues, the members of our great St. Petersburg City Council. Would you all please stand to be recognized? I believe we have some other elected officials who are with us here today. I thought I saw Pinellas County Commissioner Ken Welch, Representative Ben Diamond. Would you all and anyone else who's elected please stand to be recognized? And my thanks as well go to my incredible Deputy Mayor and City Administrator, Dr. Kanika Tomlin. She not only oversees much of the business of the city and thousands of outstanding public servants, but she continues to be a strong and inspiring presence throughout our city in her role as our deputy mayor. So thank you, Kanika. And thanks as well to Tom Green, our assistant city administrator, who is doing a magnificent job for us. Thank you, Tom. I am so fortunate. I really have a first-rate team that work for me, but more importantly, work for you, the people of this community, and people that keep the city running without fanfare, people that make us look good, that make our city shine. If you've heard me say this in public before, if you've heard me speak, you know that I talk about how it's the people of St. Petersburg, I believe, that make the city what it is today and the special place that it is today. And it's the people that work for the city, all 3,000 plus that work for the city, that are so dedicated every single day of their life to trying to make this city a better place. I can't thank them enough. It especially includes those public servants who keep us safe from harm. The men and women of the St. Pete Police Department and St. Pete Fire and Rescue. Now, I know it's early in my remarks, but I'm going to go ahead and brag about both of these departments right now. Thanks to the leadership of both of these departments, to the men and women who go to work each day and put their lives on the line, and thanks to an engaged and vigilant community, the state of St. Pete is safe. Overall, crime has dropped more than 30% over the past 5 years. Auto thefts, which have received considerable attention, continue to fall, down nearly 40% since I was first elected. Now, the raw numbers paint a clearer picture. Auto thefts peaked in 2006 when nearly 3,000 cars were stolen. Fewer than 750 were stolen last year, which is a record low for us. Now, there's a lot of credit to go around for this decrease, but mostly we want to thank you, the residents, for making it harder for bad guys and misguided teenagers to steal your car. So now I'm going to give you a little PSA. Keep up the good work. Keep your keys in your pocket and your doors locked. It helps to keep our city safe in so many ways. How's that, Chief? Now, there's another larger announcement that I want to make today. 5 years ago, the St. Petersburg Police Department had an interim police chief, a dilapidated headquarters, an even worse training center, and ugly green uniforms and cruisers. There was no community-oriented policing like Park, Walk, and Talk, which, by the way, our officers spend about 20,000 hours a year doing, creating a strong relationship with the community, which has resulted in a record amount of tips received. Our department had policies that were not beneficial to our officers or our residents, such as a high-speed chase policy, which was in existence because no one had said enough that it was time to err on the side of safety. And perhaps, worst of all, Morale was low. Officers were leaving, not coming, and they certainly weren't staying once they got here. Since 2014, when we began to turn the ship around with our best officers taking the lead, we've hired 259 new officers, and more than 200 are still on the force, a nearly 80% retention rate so far. That's a record for us. Today, progress and stability are all around us, most noticeably at the corner of 1st Avenue and 13th Street, where an amazing and long overdue police headquarters, complete with our city's largest solar array, will open in less than 1 month. So St. Pete, I am pleased and proud to stand here today and tell you that the transformation of the St. Petersburg Police Department is complete and that the state of the department has never been better. Chief Holloway and your command staff, Assistant Chiefs Dente, Kovacev, and Gilliam, would you please stand to be recognized? Please. And for those of you who weren't fortunate enough to be at a Casa Peace breakfast recently, you didn't get to hear the amazing, inspiring words of Chief Gilliam. This is a man who I think blew the entire room away with his story and his dedication to his community and his family, and I am just so proud of him. I'm proud of all of them, but it was an amazing morning. Now look, we know that there is always going to be work to be done, but we couldn't be more proud of how far we've come, how far the outstanding service of our officers have carried us all. Now, our St. Pete Fire and Rescue Department, led by Chief Jim Large, also continues to shine through community engagement and awareness, ensuring our city's people and our many new structures and renovated buildings are safe. And I am especially proud of the ways we are working to make sure our fire department reflects the diversity of our community, not only today, but for years to come. About 3 years ago, a few concerned citizens and former firefighters reached out to Deputy Mayor Tomlin, concerned about the impact a rash of retirements would have on diversity within the department. And so, working with the community, our team created a series of outreach efforts that highlight opportunities for our underrepresented neighbors. In addition to mentoring and targeted recruitment campaigns, a cadet program, like we've long had in our police department, now works to offset the cost of training for those who may not otherwise be able to pursue this noble career path due to financial constraints. And a partnership with Gibbs High School that exposes and trains students for service after graduating will yield its first class of graduates in 2019, in this year. So, thank you. Special thanks to Gibbs Principal Reuben Hepburn, who is with us here today. Thank you, Reuben, and to all those who are working every day to expand opportunity within St. Pete Fire and Rescue. Preparing young men and women for a career in the fire service or medical field is one of the most significant ways we are increasing lifelong opportunities here in the Sunshine City. It's just another example of how we are living our vision of being a city of opportunity. And thanks to you, our taxpayers, and our St. Petersburg City Council, we were able to finally replace the aging Fossil Park Fire Station. Now, it opened just a few months ago, and it's more than just a beautiful building, as it will help to ensure our firefighters are better equipped to do their jobs. And most importantly, it's open to the public, as are all of our fire stations. So please stop by and say hello. The men and the women who work there are always happy to receive visitors, always happy to say hello to you. More importantly, they're happy to welcome your kids to the station and hopefully inspire them to maybe one day join our department. You see, after all, everything that we do is for the children of this community. We are working to create a city of opportunity now and for the future. for the kids. Now, I know I've highlighted the success of our Second Chance program in the past, but because it's such a point of pride and it's so important to our future, I'm going to do it again. Since April of 2015, 356 of our community's children have attended our Second Chance program after committing their first misdemeanor. That means instead of being sent to a juvenile assessment center, they were sent to give back to our community. We afforded them a second chance, and to their credit, they took advantage of it. It's a shining example of who we are in St. Petersburg. Now, candidly, I wish I had the power to do even more as it relates to criminal justice. I wish we could do things like fully decriminalize small amounts of marijuana, but we have a state attorney, and we have state laws, as outdated as they may be. Because the reality is, it probably won't be long before small amounts of recreational marijuana are allowed in Florida. And when that day comes, the state of Florida will be a fairer place to live, especially for African Americans, who we know are more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession, despite federal data showing that black and white Americans use marijuana at about the same rate. Now, fortunately, our police department has worked hard and worked smart to redirect residents of our city who commit petty crimes into a diversion program, rather than send them to jail. We are big proponents of Pinellas County's adult pre-arrest diversion program. We are determined to keep families together, people at work, and records clean. And on the topic of fairness, I also want to touch on the recently successful Amendment 4. This amendment will restore the voting rights of more than 1 million residents with prior felony convictions, including many right here in St. Petersburg. And for all of you who voted yes in favor of that, thank you. The amendment language was self-executing, meaning it doesn't require lawmakers to weigh in or to implement it. So here's the good news. People are registering every day. It's working. And we don't need the Florida legislature to touch a single thing. To me, it's simple. The more people voting, the more people engaged in our democracy and in our government, the better. We cannot do enough to extend opportunity to those re-entering our community, whether it's the opportunity to vote or the opportunity to work. Our whole community benefits when everyone in it believes their personal prosperity is possible. Now, a couple of years ago, in his farewell address, President Barack Obama said, quote, "It falls to each of us to be those anxious, jealous guardians of our democracy, to embrace the joyous task we have been given, to continually try to improve this great nation of ours, because for all of our outward differences, we in fact all share the same proud type, the most important office in a democracy, citizen." Close quote. And by the way, as we announced earlier last year, the name of our 44th president and first African American president will adorn our main community library in the not too distant future. So now, thankfully, there's a great deal of civic pride and participation here in St. Pete. And your attendance this morning and the work you do throughout the year to make this city shine are evidence of that. But soon, we'll be asking even more of you and urging the rest of our residents to be as engaged as you are. We are commencing a generational endeavor called Vision 2050. Now, some of you may remember we embarked on a similar exercise about 20 years ago called, wait for it, Vision 2020. City officials, sponsors, hundreds of citizen delegates, steering committee members, and presenters led the way, crafting an impressive document that helped to inform future decisions and guide our growth. But we want to do even better this time around. We want to take full advantage of interactive technology and new platforms that are available to us to create not just a guiding document, but a constructive conversation. We want and we need to hear from you. And I know you all have it in you. I've seen how passionate you are on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I know that you all have strong opinions about affordable housing or gentrification or mass transit or where the Tampa Bay Rays should go, or for that matter, where I should go. There will be more on this to come, but starting today, you can visit stpete2050.com to help us begin the discussion. But please put your cell phones away. Wait till this is over. The show's still going on here. Then go to the website. And there is, as you know, a lot to discuss. Our city is growing. Thankfully, it is growing. We are on the rise, literally and figuratively. We owe this in part to a national economy that rebounded strongly out of the Great Recession. But our success is not the result of larger external forces, as was highlighted in our recent State of the Economy, and thank you to Alan Delisle and your entire team for that insightful report. St. Pete is outperforming the United States and many of our city peers. In the last 3 years, our median income increased by 20%, compared to 12.5% for the United States as a whole. Among Florida's 5 biggest cities, the most recent data shows that our poverty rate is now the lowest. Unemployment is also in decline, outpacing the Tampa Bay region, the state of Florida, and the United States. And it's declined every year since 2015. Property values in our South St. Pete community redevelopment area are up nearly $260 million in the past 4 years. St. Pete Works, our recent collaboration with community organizations to increase employment in the CRA, has already yielded jobs for more than 100 of our residents. Our progress isn't an accident. It's the result of many factors, including and especially the focus and hard work of your city government, our community partners, and thousands of determined residents, business owners, and young people. That, my friends, is the spirit of St. Pete. That drive to dream bigger, to do better, and to be better. Now, one such example is our Cohort of Champions Youth Training Initiative. One of several initiatives under our My Brothers and Sisters Keeper program, our Cohort of Champions is one of the many responses to a string of gun violence among young people that plagued our city more than 3 years ago. Each year, African American teenagers and young men are recruited to join the program and better position themselves for college or job placement. They are given career readiness, entrepreneurial and team building training, and their families receive vital wraparound services. And so far, more than 132 of these young men have become champions. Now, one of them, 15-year-old Kashif Haynes, told us that, quote, "This program impacted me because I've seen there are better ways of life than what I saw. I see kids stealing cars, robbing and selling drugs, and I saw that it doesn't have to be me. I could be better than that, and I could change my community and help others see the same thing I'm trying to see and accomplish." Kashif is here with us this morning, and I'd like for him to stand and be recognized. Please stand. Kashif is only one young man of 132 who is rewriting his story. And that number is growing. Our future economy will be stronger and more diverse because of these young men. Helping them and their families realize their potential and possibilities is the least that we can do. And we know that as long as there is need, we must do more. Our economy is also transforming, which is more good news. Now, we will always have our sacred foundations, such as our cultural arts and museums. And in fact, our museums, and there are now nearly a dozen of them collectively employing more than 2,000 people. Our museums had nearly 1.5 million visitors enter their doors in 2018. That's remarkable. But we are now building on such foundations. We are growing up. We had our Renaissance, we had our recession. This is our coming of age. If you're looking for St. Pete to be a sleepy retirement town with a hospitality-focused economy, keep looking. It's not who we are, and it's not who we want to be. When people admire our city's efforts to go green, it has nothing to do with benches. Those days are done and gone. We are building a city of the future and for the future. We are leaning on our Grow Smarter strategy to grow and improve jobs in marine and life sciences, specialized manufacturing and financial services, creative arts and design, and data analytics. We've learned that these are the most sustainable and rewarding jobs for the residents of our city. And the data shows our strategy is working. Last year alone, our City Development Administration helped secure nearly 2,000 new jobs for our economy. 2,000 new jobs. That's a big number. And most of them were Grow Smarter jobs in one of the 5 sectors that I just named. We are diversifying our economy with more livable wages, good benefits, and more consumer spending power. We've also been focused on retaining and growing anchors in these industries, like Jabil, Raymond James, Power Design, L3, and UPC. These important anchors secure a cluster of workforce talent that other companies want to be around. And while recruiting, securing, and growing anchor corporations is a priority, it is not our sole priority. We are as determined as ever to support our small business owners and entrepreneurs. This is evident not just by the myriad of programs and services offered by our greenhouse or our marketing department's outstanding showcasing of our local businesses, but it's evident by a newly proposed ordinance called the Storefront Conservation Corridor Plan. This unique overlay is the result of a nearly 2-year community conversation, and it aims to promote independently owned businesses to maintain a pedestrian-friendly streetscape and promote the conservation of historic assets along Beach Drive and Central Avenue from the waterfront to 31st Street. Now this isn't the answer to our growing pains downtown, but it is an answer. It is another tool in our toolkit to help keep St. Pete local and to help us keep the vibe alive. If you've heard me speak about this topic before, you know that what I always say is it's the character, it's the vibe, it's the feel of St. Petersburg that makes the city different from every other community across the country. You can go to cities like Charlotte or Charleston, Savannah, all these cities that supposedly have great character, and they're nice, but they're not St. Pete. Because when you walk down Central Avenue or you go down Beach Drive, you get to go to restaurants and shops and galleries that you don't find anywhere else in the country, except here in St. Pete. And so I want to thank every person and organization that provided valuable feedback and helped to shape this ordinance. We brought everyone together on this one, and I mean everyone. It's proof that through patience and persistent public engagement, anything is possible. And so I look forward to City Council's unanimous approval of this innovative ordinance so that we can send a clear message to the world about who we are, what we value, how we want to grow, and what we're capable of when we work together. Now I know there are concerns about our growth. I hear it every day, and I'm concerned about our growth too. I'm the proud mayor of this great city, but I'm also the guy that eats lunch at places all up and down Central Avenue, which you can probably tell. I'm also the guy who buys his wife a Valentine's Day present at the Rock Shop, or shops for records at Daddy Cool, or olive oil from Kalamazoo. It's our small businesses, it's our craft breweries, our art galleries, our murals, our music, our grittiness. Those are the things that make St. Pete St. Pete. And I'm determined to keep it that way while also ensuring dynamic and much needed growth. Growth that includes height and density. In a built-out city like St. Pete, height and density are the only options on the table when it comes to growth. But it also happens to be a progressive approach. You see, unlike other cities, we're fortunate in that we are not having divisive debates about sprawl and the elimination of green space. In fact, your city government has purchased and protected dozens of acres of green space since 2014. A few years ago, we decided that the property next to Abercrombie Park was worth buying, and that the future expansion of that park gave us an opportunity to better highlight its unique history while advancing our heritage tourism efforts. Working with our residents, we decided that townhomes adjacent to Boyd Hill Nature Preserve was a bad idea, and so we bought those 35 acres too. And as a side note, I am so excited about what's next for Boyd Hill, as we will connect the preserve to the public campground and pioneer area, accessible through a redesigned 31st Street South entrance. The best is truly yet to come for Boyd Hill. And how lucky are we to have Boyd Hill in our city? I love when people come to the city and say, how did you guys do this? This is right in the middle of everything. So growth is good, but it's especially good when you balance it with the quality of life initiatives, like more parks, more trees, more public transportation, more bikes, more bike lanes, and more bike lanes on complete streets. And yes, more of those are on the way. Because public safety and building a walkable, bikeable city is a priority for my administration. In fact, complete streets isn't just about quality of life, it's about life itself. Because speed kills, and our local roads are not meant to serve as miniature interstates. And that's why complete streets are also a priority for the residents who live near them. Residents like Jess McCann. Now last year, Ms. McCann sent me a very touching letter, and she gave me permission to share her words with you here today. She said, "Dear Mayor, I know that you received significant resistance for the Complete Streets initiative, so I wanted to write to encourage you. My disabled daughter and I biked on it this morning for the first time. I have a recumbent trike tandem. My husband fitted her wheelchair to the back on the tandem we ride. I put a windsock on the back for visibility. I'm sure we look like a rolling carnival. Nevertheless, this mama was happy this morning. We had enough room in the bike lane. The bike lane was smooth and clear of debris. All of our favorite businesses are on that route. Rolling Oats will be our stop on the way home. So thank you for the Complete Streets, and I hope more are in the offing soon. It is really carving out a bike space out of a car-centric universe. The sun was shining on us," close quote. Now the McCanns and their daughter Kelly couldn't be here with us today, but I know they're at home watching. And Kelly, we wish you were here, but I want you to know that those bike lanes are for you. You've given us the confidence to keep going and keep doing what's right for the future of our city, for kids that are just like you. So thank you so much. Would you all please join me in giving the McCanns a round of applause? This is what I mean by quality of life. We're doing those things. And as long as we do them, as long as we build not just complete streets, but a complete city, we can handle growth. We can handle a tall building or two, built planfully and according to a code and vision for our city that has served us well so far. Now, I also want to dispel the myth that our growth is a burden on our infrastructure. The truth is, our sewer system can handle more growth. What has challenged us in the past is not toilets flushing, but rainwater entering our aging, pervious sewer pipes and overwhelming our system. Even the Tampa Bay Times, in a story 2 years ago, asked, quote, "Is the downtown building boom fueling St. Pete's sewage crisis? The answer is no," close quote. Those are their words, not mine. So please, spread the word. Our system is much improved and we are better prepared to handle future heavy rains, which climate science tells us will only increase in frequency. And oh, by the way, in St. Petersburg, we believe in science. And it appears we may finally have a governor that also believes in science. And quite frankly, we're rooting for him to be successful. Because if the state is successful, St. Pete will be successful. And when St. Pete is successful, the state of Florida is successful. We have to work together. And since 2016, we've invested nearly $200 million in the reduction of rainwater inflow and infiltration that has caused us problems in the past. $200 million. Part of that investment has been in building additional capacity. Part has been invested in lining or replacing about 12,000 feet of stormwater pipes and more than 400,000 linear feet of sewer pipes. We've fortified manholes and increased treatment capacity. And we've done all of this in partnership with you, our constituents, our ratepayers, you who understand the gravity of the situation. And so, thank you. I thank you so much for being a partner with us. Now, I want to touch on a different kind of infrastructure. Emotional infrastructure. This is a term I'm borrowing from my friend Peter Kagiyama, and I think Peter is here with us today. So, hey Peter, how you doing? The new St. Pete Pier is emotional infrastructure. With our new pier, we are building a sense of place. A place where memories will be created, where kids will laugh and learn, where couples will fall in love or get married, where so many special occasions will be celebrated. Now, I know what you're thinking. When's the darn thing going to open? The answer is soon. The process to replace the pier began about 14 years ago when I was the chairman of the St. Petersburg City Council, long before I had a beard or this gray hair. I am fully aware that it only took 8 years to send a man to the moon after President Kennedy's 1961 speech, but there are no politics on the moon, nor are there any constituents or a city council. Sorry, guys. Look, the most important thing about this new pier isn't the budget or the time frame, both of which are subject to so many variables. The most important thing is getting it right. It's ensuring that residents and visitors, young and old, rich and poor, are drawn to it like a beacon. Ensuring that the focal point of our city's postcard makes us proud for generations to come. Now, I'm happy to take the heat on the cost of things like construction materials, but I consider that to be largely immaterial to the larger goal. And today, we are taking another step toward that goal. Not with more brick and mortar, but with the unveiling of our St. Pete Pier logo and the reintroduction of our pier's social media platforms. Now, the logo, like the pier, is sustainable. It's timeless. It's not trendy. It's an illustration of our vision for the pier, sophisticated yet accessible. It will complement, not compete, with the environment and the vibrant colors of the Pier District. And today, everyone in attendance will receive an inaugural promotional item with the new brand identity as you leave the theater. Makes me feel like Oprah. You get a car, and you get a car. Of course, those cars would be electric cars if we were given them. And speaking of electric cars, if you haven't heard, we recently partnered with Duke Energy to bring even more EV charging stations to our city. And this is just the latest partnership with Duke that will help to make our city even greener. Our other recent and shared initiatives with Duke include solar power at the St. Pete Pier and our LED streetlight conversion, which we announced earlier this year and which is now well underway. These are just some of the small things we are doing to get us closer to our sustainability and our resiliency goals. Now, by now, you are no doubt familiar with some of the big things that we've done or that we're doing. The work and objectives that brought us recognition and assistance from Bloomberg Philanthropies, like our commitment to reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and powering St. Pete with clean energy. We know that we have a lot of work to do. And given the changing climate, increasing temperatures, and rising times, we don't have a lot of time to do it. That's the sobering truth. And the situation we are in becomes even more daunting if we have to go it alone. Now, regionally, we've made some great progress. As a state, we've made none. As a nation, we've gone backward under this president. The world community, despite the Paris Agreement, remains off course. But not us. Not anymore. We will do what we can while being fiscally responsible to leave this city better and more sustainable and resilient than we found it. As the saying goes, quote, "We did not inherit this earth from our ancestors. We are borrowing it from our children," close quote. And we will do right by them on this issue, on every issue, every single day. We will not leave public safety and poverty and sewer pipes and the pier to those that follow us. These are our issues to solve. This is our time to shine. And working together, I know that we can keep the state of St. Pete sunny, strong, and special for generations to come. Thank you guys so very much.